My second area for improvement is the sizing of the drills that I set out. One of my areas for improvement was basically that I made one drill slightly too small, and this meant that the drill was not as effective as it would have been if the drill had been the right size. So basically the passing size was too small when it could have been a bit bigger and more challenging for the students. But I set it out too small as I didn't know the ability level exactly before the start of the session. So therefore this drill did not completely challenge the class as there was a sizing between the cones was too small. This offered no real challenge for the class and therefore was a weakness in my coaching, as I thought if it had been the right size I would have got more from the session. To develop on this, I feel I should shadow coach a rugby team to get a grasp of how coaches measure and set out their equipment without knowing the standard of their group or how well they're going to perform. This would only be for a few sessions, as I feel confident that I will be able to pick it up and get good at understanding quite quickly. I also feel it's a realistic development, as it's very specific to my area of improvement due to the fact that the shadowing will demonstrate uh, how to get the sizing correct. This therefore will allow me to be able to then set out my drills with more specific detail in my sizing, as I know the sizings I'll be able to really challenge my class to get the drill, and it won't be as easy for them as it was when I did it in my session. Also, I can make a note of how the distance to put in between the cones on my session plan in detail to enable me to know what to set out before rather than sort of knowing the shape and stuff but guessing the sizings in between the cones and stuff. I'll be able to measure this if I'll be able to measure if this has worked, this development plan, due to the fact that the drills will really be testing and challenging the class. So if they're still not challenging, then I'll know it hasn't worked. But if they are, then I'll know that this development plan has worked. This is why I feel it will have a positive effect on my coaching. So one last weakness of my session was that I did not check prior to the start of the session if anyone had any injuries or medical conditions. This is very important, as you need to be aware of any injuries or medical conditions during your session, as you don't want to make a person's injuries any worse. Also, uh, some of the class may not feel confident enough to, so if you don't ask them, they may not feel confident enough to come up to you and speak to you about their injury. So therefore, they could make their injury worse because they're not confident to tell you. The negative effect this had on my coaching is that there could have been some serious injuries which I was unaware of during the session, which could have caused someone to get severely hurt, or it could have just caused a minor injury, but again I wasn't aware. Thankfully there was no injuries, however in future I will not risk this, I will always make sure that there are no injuries before starting the session. To develop from this, I would write a little speech maybe to make before the session, addressing any injuries anyone has, removal of jewellery, and a brief overview of the session and what we want to achieve in this session. This therefore will allow for any students to speak up about whether or not they are injured and whether they can take full part in the session, and as they are aware of the session aims, as I explained in the little speech. To start with, I'll feel as if it would be helpful to have a little note in my pocket to remind me what to say, and then over time it will become a habit and I will not need the paper in my pocket, I'll just be able to do it off the top of my head. This is a realistic target, and I feel that after around 6 sessions I'll be able to get rid of the note and do it all off the top of my head. This is a specific target as it's based around getting across to the injury and medical check before, therefore will benefit the class as it won't cause any injuries. I also feel it is achievable to use the note. I also feel it is achievable to use the note for 6 weeks or 6 sessions if you had a session each week, then become a habit not to use the note. This is why it will have a positive effect on my coaching.